welcome in. Who the is Frank here on GoLiveVegas, and of course the One of Us Comics YouTube channel, as well as find us on the GoLiveVegas TikTok, and you can find us on Spotify. Wherever you're streaming your podcast, you can find us. So make sure you do, and subscribe. Click subscribe. Welcome in, guys. We want to thank you guys for joining us this week. We got a packed show and a cast of some characters, not all of them. Directly to my left, the ghost of Christmas past, Mr. Johnny Jimenez is not in this week. Feeling a little under the weather, so he is taking this week off. And Mr. Brett Lawson had a prior obligation, which he wouldn't be here, so Brett is not with us as well. So I am in an empty studio with the two from abroad, because one, we never know where in the world Paul Vato is, but Paul Vato joins us from, I think he's still out in Chicago. But Paul, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, and yes, I'm still in Chicago.
He's in the Windy City. He's out there hanging out.
Sentence? Did you go before a judge and they told you couldn't leave Chicago? Is something going on there, man?
Yeah, I've been sentenced to Chicago. I'm no longer allowed to leave. And you know what? I'm not hating it. I'm falling in love with the city all over again. I'm actually in the suburbs. And, you know, for those that pray, my mother had surgery, but she's out and she's home now. So I'm here taking care of her as much as I can. Ma, is the food ready yet? Exactly. All right, thank you.
That's exactly how I expected you to be.
I'm pretty sure
from
her bed she can still throw a chunkle at your thick ass. So go ahead and poke.
It'll come around the corner and hit me right upside the head. Yeah.
She's got a whole stable of shoes right there next to the bed, so she can just throw them at you anytime she needs. Yeah, that's tell her that we encourage that behavior.
God.
I thought, you don't DoorDash from here at Mom's. I get it. Well, Paul is here with us.
If you guys want to meet her, I'll bring her on later on in the show. You tell me if we have time for a guest.
There we go. Just another unscripted guest. And that brings me into the next guy from Bakersfield, California. Senior editor for Comicon.com. Mr. Brendan Allen is here as well. Brendan, how are you today?
Doing good. Just sitting here waiting for everybody to come in this morning, and nobody came. So this should be a quick, clean show. But then Paul Vato showed up, so I don't know if I can make that promise still, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, and every show we kick it off, we got to start off with Paul's 30-second of selfless promotion. And Paul, it's all yours. Take it away.
If you have diabetes, you use Freestyle Libre 2. Other than that, of course, the Kamasusia, go to kamasusia.com to order that. Pick up some BottleCoin at bottlecoin.com. And if you just want to connect with me across all social media, by all means, just go to paulvato.com, and from there, all the websites are there, Vato events. I'm actually, today is Tuesday, so I just got to say that last night I had an amazing at the Comedy Vault in Batavia. So Batavia Comedy Vault, thank you for having me. I did an open mic, and I was probably the best one there.
There you go, and you didn't have to do a solid 5. So,
were you the only one at open mic?
How dare you? Just because
Speaking of Mike, let's talk about the fact that it's nice that you got a microphone, but I'm gonna tell you right now, you sound like you're in 1950s AM radio. So it's pretty good. It's very fitting, right? Because again, Paul, if you haven't followed the show, Paul is actually a child of the 90s. So he wouldn't understand all that. He has no idea what you dial in the radio station. That doesn't happen. In fact, he goes, no, what do you mean there's not streaming? So Paul's getting there. He's understanding it. But yeah, it's interesting. But Paul, we're going to keep your AOL dial-up disc in the machine and keep you right here with us. But this weekend was pretty cool. I had a great time. It was my child's birthday on Friday, and we went out to a place here in town. And look, they're not a sponsor of the show, but I'm going to promote them anyways. It's called Spy Ninja Headquarters. It's a really fun, interactive, it's a trampoline park is what it is, but it's like an elevated trampoline park. So it's got a full arcade downstairs. It's got a full restaurant in it. It's got a bar upstairs. They have axe throwing. They have rec rooms for you to, destroy all kinds of stuff, fruit, whatever it is. you've got all these different activities you can do. They've got tunnels, mazes, laser maze, dodgeball. I mean, you name it. Like, they've got all these things that you can do. Some of them are add-ons and some of them, but they were super, super cool. And what we did was we did a Labubu birthday party for him. Figured, hey, let's let this kid be one of the first in his circle to have, a birthday party based around it. And our friends over at TSP, the baking company here in Las Vegas, were able to, in 2 days, make me a custom Labubu cake, which I thought was really fun. We made the cake, got the cake, presented that, and then all the kids that attended the party received a Labubu. So one of the better party gifts I think the kids probably gotten in some time. It was just something I wanted to do to be memorable for him and have a good time. Kid had a blast. Everybody had fun. And, the families that their children came and participated, I appreciate it. But then as you would, I picked up Brody's friends, right? So I had his friend Kane and his brother Cash. And then Andrew, who works for us, his son Finn, I picked him up also. So I picked up all those boys, took them to the party. During the playtime, they came up with this, hey, let's sleep over. So by the time we got done, they started asking about a sleepover. We started working on that, calling parents, all this stuff. So at 9:30 at night, we're in Target buying toothbrushes, getting these kids snacks. I ended up buying all the kids pillows and blankets, so everybody had their own, so there was no argument. They all got new stuff. But you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. It was a lot of fun. I think
But you did not have to buy Uncrustables because you got 2 dozen of those in the fridge already.
We do generally have a lot of Uncrustables in the fridge. I will tell you right now, after that party, there are no Uncrustables in the fridge.
Well, and the good thing is, I hope then when I come back to Las Vegas, if I need a place to crash, I can always come to your place. And it sounds like you already have pillows and blankets and everything that I might need.
Yeah, well, it's cool. And we built like a little temporary shelter, because I don't know if you know, but like Las Vegas will allow the transient community, people that don't have a place to stay, they'll kind of stay wherever. So what we did is we actually built a little structure out in the back. It's actually made out of cardboard. It's totally safe. And you more than welcome to stay there, Paul. In fact, I think it would be nice to have someone watch the grounds. And honestly, like, I could probably use some cleanup there in the backyard, so maybe we could encourage you to do that. You can work on your
people in like Victorian England. They used to pay people to live in their gardens and get all scruffy and play the part of an actual living garden gnome. That's a real thing.
Yeah, see, and so that actually, you know what? We could add this to your resume, Paul. So I think between Brendan and I, we've got you a position. We've got it set up. I think it'll totally work. And look, you can be the best comedian in the backyard too. So, at the end of the day, I think this is like a perfect fit.
Open mic every day. Wasn't it a Caddyshack where Bill Murray goes, you guys got a pool? They're like, well, we have a lake. The lake would be good for you.
Well, and we could even have them come out and check for all the gas lines and everything, and then you could just start digging for a pool, and you could just prep it yourself. It'd take you some time, but I mean, again, you're just working on your material anyway, so it would be perfect. So I think, Paul, we've got you when you come back to Vegas. Absolutely have a spot for you. Brendan, what he'll probably do is, because, Brendan by trade has a background in flooring, he'll probably come in and put a floor in there for you if you ask him real nice.
I mean, yeah, that's 100%. I'm in. I can't wait to get back to Vegas.
No, Paul, we look forward to having you back. And, of course, guys, make sure you follow Paul on all the different platforms that he's on. But go to paulvato.com. And you can get access to everything, the Vato coins, all that stuff. Aaron, did you have that structure we built? Oh, Aaron's got a picture of the structure we built. So let's go ahead and put that up. Aaron, the producer, got the first images of it. So there you go, Paul. And as you can see, we really didn't spare.
It doesn't rain in Vegas. That would actually hold up.
Yeah, we didn't actually spare much expense here either.
I love it. I've lived in smaller places. When we lived on our boat in Marina Del Rey, it was almost just about that same size. So yeah, I'm comfortable almost anywhere. That looks beautiful. I can't wait to move in.
Yeah, maybe the thing is that if you work hard enough, Paul, and you do enough work in the backyard there, we might be able to spring for a door. All right, so we'll work on that for you. And you know, I know Brendan will probably send me a half-used roll of duct tape so we could use that. And then, you know, it's just getting the right material for the door. Probably something insulated, like some insulation foam or something like that. And
the dogs and I are going to love that place. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'll be a great time for you. So what did you guys get into this week? I'll start with you, Brendan. What did you have going on?
Not a whole lot. It's pretty hot here in Bakersfield, so we don't go outside. But Night of Champions took place. What was that, Saturday? That was fun.
Oh my gosh, it did, and it happened at kind of, you know, there was this belief that it could get moved, it couldn't happen. You know, I'm not sure, but it definitely created some interesting storylines in the world of WWE. And right now, that world of WWE is about as big as it's been in the last, you know, 4 to 6 years. Like, it's got massive players involved. The biggest names in the sport are wrestling on a regular basis. This is key. These guys are wrestling on a regular basis. They're not just showing up for the big events and then not wrestling on Raw or not doing this. The storylines are continuing. And what you're seeing from that is that it's interesting for fans to follow because they're able to sit there and look at it. And I know there was a ton of really great storylines that occurred. And one I wanted to touch on, because I'm just going to be honest with you, of the women wrestlers, my favorite is Jade Cargill. And I think, like, she's super athletic and all this, but this was really interesting, was it not?
No, it really is. So I sent over 2 pictures. This is Jade Cargill's actual entrance from Night of Champions. They're in the Republic of Saudi Arabia, whatever. So the women have to be covered from head to toe. But she went with a very, very on-the-nose Storm. There's an action figure that I sent over. Aaron, could you switch the picture? That, you know, 100% she's going for this look right here. And she looks right at the camera over and over again. And she goes, a storm is coming. And it's just like, I get it. And, you know, Rey Mysterio and, you know, CM Punk have done, you know, a bunch of the guys have done a bunch of comics themed ring gear and stuff like that. But she's so on the nose with it. I'm waiting for Marvel to send her a cease and desist, because she's got the silver hair. She's got the ring gear, but she's also saying Storm over and over and over again in her promos. It's like, you know, it's not quite as bad as Arachnaman was in WCW a while back, but it's getting pretty close. And I'm just wondering how long it takes before Marvel gets wind and just goes, you know what, either pay us or stop doing it.
Well, yeah, when it's this close, right? When it's that close, like, you can even see, like, the skirting that comes off the legs on the action figure is actually the same in her outfit there. Mm-hmm. You know, right. They don't have the X-Men logos on there, but she put the X across her chest instead. So, like, I get it. I do love the shtick, though. I do think that it's fun. And it is one of those things that, because it's got that relevancy, it does kind of draw in maybe a different group of fans that maybe aren't as strong WWE followers. They might not. I'm sure there's a lot of casual WWE fans who don't even know that Jade Cargill does this Storm shtick. You know what I'm saying? So from that standpoint, it was great. Her match was good, though. I thought it was a decent match. Definitely entertaining. The women right now are super athletic. We've had that in the past, but generally you've had 1 or 2 women that come in that just, like, you know, strong arm everyone and are so much stronger than everybody. But right now you've got them flying off ropes, doing flips. They're doing a lot of work outside of the ring as well as in, which some of that stuff is challenging. That's where a lot of wrestlers get hurt, is outside of the ring, not in the ring. It's always outside of the ring. It seems like they get hurt because there's a lot less padding, a lot less, you know, forgiving spots. And so for that. Now, let's talk about forgiveness, okay? Someone had something to say leading up to this, and I want you to get into depth on you know, what CM Punk was going into this event, and kind of give us a background of, like, what was expected with this event, because it was in Saudi Arabia, right?
Right. So a few years ago, CM Punk put out a really famous tweet where Mike the Miz had said something on social media, and that tweet is there, Aaron, where he responded to the Miz with, "Go suck a blood money covered in Saudi Arabia, you effing dork." And the people of Saudi Arabia obviously are not super happy with this. And like I said, this was a few years ago. I think it was like 2019. But one of the things that CM Punk did while he was in Saudi Arabia, which was super classy, is he actually, at the press conference, apologized to the people of Saudi Arabia for this tweet. And there's another picture. You can go ahead and flip to the next. And this is him apologizing to the crowd there. And they ate it up because CM Punk is a massive star or whatever. And, it's one thing to pretend like something like that didn't happen when it gets dug up or whatever, but he fully owned it. He went there, he talked to the crowd, he talked to the reporters, he answered their questions, he answered them honestly. He goes, look, I wasn't, in the same place that I'm at now, whatever. I'm sorry that I said that. Obviously, everybody here is not a scumbag, so whatever. And, they ate it up. So they accepted his apology, whatever. But it was kind of interesting going into this, trying to figure out how the Saudi people were going to respond to CM Punk after he had so publicly defamed them.
Well, and I think, when it comes to a situation like this, I think you also need to preface this with when he was making those comments, that's where he was having kind of an outs with the WWE. So like he was having all these negative promos. He was getting into issues. He actually got into some real altercations backstage, if I recall. Right? He had some issues with some other wrestlers. So when you have things like this, and Paul, you come from a world of entertainment and you come from a world where your, perception is everything. And the way he was perceived coming into Saudi Arabia, I can only guess WWE expected this to just be a firestorm. But at the same time, they knew they had to do it. And on top of it, they're not dumb. Negative publicity sometimes is the best publicity, right, Paul?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Look at our friend Andy Dick, so up to shenanigans. And I think you either lean into it and, you double down on it, or you take his route and apologize. And, but it's just like anything, you admit, hey, I'm a different person now, or I've learned from this. And it's happened again, and my apologies. But yeah, I think that's the classy way to do it. And especially even like stand-up comedy sometimes, you toe the line within a show. You alienate the audience. You almost get them to hate you. And then you do your win them back over. And that's a very, sometimes it's by design. And that's the way you've created your hour or whatever. Or whenever you're just performing in front of people, if it's a hostile environment, audience, you lean into it. And they hate you, and then all of a sudden at the end they love you. And Patrice O'Neal, a famous comedian, once said, he famously said, you want half the audience to love you, and then you want the other half to be horrified. So I don't know if that's necessarily the same in wrestling, but it's also entertaining. So yeah, I think it takes a special skill to be able to control the crowd like that and win them back over to your side and to your favor.
Well, and, I think he did it because when he came out to a big fanfare.
Massive pop for CM Punk. They really got behind him. And, that was big. And obviously him and Rollins, got at it. And I guess, I don't know. What did you think of the finish, Brendan? So I see what they're doing. So whenever they do these Saudi shows, they try to bring back really big names, and they'll have the Undertaker there, they'll have Goldberg there. The main event was kind of a nostalgia show. It was Cena versus Punk. Everybody wanted to see it one last time because Cena's on his farewell tour. But basically, by having Rollins come out and they had this kind of confuddled finish. It's not quite a dusty finish, but it's close. And so they end up, Cena goes over, but he doesn't go over clean. So CM Punk can keep working and still look strong. But it also sets up because during the Rhodes-Orton match, Cody Rhodes went over, and now that's setting up for Cody Rhodes to take the belt off of John Cena to finish off this tour that John Cena is doing. So Cody Rhodes, the babyface, the favorite, is probably going to get the belt back. John Cena's going to go out, and he's probably going to go out with an act of redemption. He's been doing this heel thing. It's not working out great, but he really does love the fans. So I feel like, at the end, there's going to be some handshaking and some hugging for real. And, it looks like that's going to be the blow off for this kind of reign of John Cena.
And you don't think that Cena has an opportunity here to retain and keep the belt and then John Elway off into the sunset and take it with him like he keeps telling everybody he's going to do?
I don't think because they're doing, like I said, they're doing the nostalgia tour. So he did a fake pipe bomb where that's when CM Punk was the champion of WWF. And he was like, you know what? Forget you guys. Everybody sucks. This is what's going on backstage. This is the reality of stuff. I've got the belt. I'm leaving. Try and stop me. And so John Cena is doing a very similar thing, but they keep doing all these callbacks. And I think that what they're going to do is they're kind of doing the rectification. Like, Hulk Hogan got Ultimate Warrior to come into WCW so he could get a clean win over Ultimate Warrior because he never had one. And so I think that's kind of the thing, is they're trying to do the pipe bomb a little bit differently and control it this time so that the belt doesn't go, because if the belt goes, it's going to embarrass the company. And then you lose stock in, Cody Rhodes not being able to get the job done, or the other guys, the 15 guys between now and Cody Rhodes at the end, not being able to get the job done. It doesn't do anybody any favors. So I think that the smart thing to do is have that match, have Cody Rhodes go over clean, get the belt, and have John Cena have a redemption arc right before he leaves.
And I mean, obviously that seems to make the most sense, right, to do that. But there is a possibility in this world. And again, sometimes WWE, you'll assume that things are going to happen a certain way, and then all of a sudden,
you know what I just thought of?
What's that?
I just thought of, no, that's not going to be the finish. Either Cody's going to go over and get the belt, and then Rollins is going to cash in because he was unsuccessful with his cash in on Saturday.
That's what I was going to just call out right now.
Or he's going to cash in, in the middle of the match and make it a triple threat.
And that's what I think is going to happen. I think that might happen, and then that's going to DQ. Like, Rollins will end up getting like DQ'd somehow. He'll do something dirty or whatever it is, probably to Cody. And then while he does that, maybe Cena does take the belt, and then they change the championship belt. Like, they change what that is.
Disqualification in a triple threat match.
Yeah, well, I'm saying more of like maybe he has like his thugs come out or something like that. Cause it, you know what I mean?
That tracks. That just hit me just now. I got sucked into it.
Yeah.
Because the obvious thing is have Cody Rhodes go over, but he might still go over. But Seth Rollins is going to be involved. That's right. They're setting up for that.
But that cash-in concept, that would be massive to be able to do that, because that would present itself as a, fun way to really like elevate that. And look, that would be the water cooler talk on Monday, right? Would be the fact that you would have that. So, there again, there's a lot of really great storyline concepts, things that are happening in WWE. And it's not just with this storyline, right? Because you've got, Rollins is playing multiple storylines right now. He's not just playing the one, right? He's got multiple storylines going on. He's got multiple beefs. You've got all the bloodline issue that's happened. You've got the, Fatu and
Hikuleo. Hikuleo debuted. Like, he should have been, okay, so Tama Tonga is a beast, and he's always been a beast in New Japan or whatever. Like, he's got this look. I don't know why they haven't done this yet, but he paints his face in a way that looks like almost like the what's his name? Papa Shango was created after a New Orleans. What's the guy's name? Baron Zamidi. He's got like a Baron Zamidi look that he does with the paint and the paint down his face. Where like, it's crazy. I don't know why they haven't done it, but Tongaloa. Everybody still remembers him as Camacho, so it was too soon to bring him back. They should have brought in Hikuleo to begin with, because the dude's enormous. He's like 6'9", 250 pounds. He's a beast, and I think it would have been a better new bloodline. But they're correcting that now because Tongaloa is back, or Tama Tonga is back, and now Hikuleo is there, and it's amazing. And I like the direction that the new bloodline could go from here, because you got Roman, because of health issues and things that are going on, that's really not super involved right now. But I think the new bloodline with Hikuleo and the new group that Solo Sikoa is putting together is a really interesting group. I think they're going to be doing some fun stuff.
Well, and I feel like that could be set up where whatever happens with this Cena, Cody Rhodes thing could essentially become the issue. Like, let's say Rollins cash in and Rollins takes the title, right? Which is not on anybody's radar. No one has Rollins taking the title here. They either have it as Rhodes or Cena. So if Rollins came in and did that, then all of a sudden it could open that door for that comeback, for Roman Reigns at this point to come back and basically go after Rollins for all the disruption that he's caused with everything he's got going on. So again, you've got the bad guy of all bad guys. Like, Rollins is playing that to a T. and he's doing a great job with it, and causing all kinds of disruption and everything. You've had Cena get involved with the things that Rollins doing to cause some issues there. So it is set up that way, and it does allow a nice, easy transition that if you do have Cena leave, right, and Cena's done, that there's that next step there. And the only thing I could think is that might open the door for, some type of reprisal from The Rock of basically being like, hey, you guys cheated my champion, and now, because of that, I'm going to cause all this problem. And maybe that's him coming in and getting behind Roman Reigns, or I don't know. Right, but
it's so hard to tell anytime he's involved what his level of participation is going to be.
Right.
So like the thing with Cena's heel turn, you thought he was going to be majorly involved with that, but we're getting toward the end of Cena's year. He's only got 15, 14, 13 dates left or whatever, and you haven't heard from The Rock at all. So it's like, did they just decide that's a bad idea and drop it? Is he coming back at some point? Like, you don't know. But The Rock is such a busy dude that you're like, was it a scheduling issue? Like, what the hell is going on here for real? But we'll see.
Well, I bet you it's probably a scheduling issue. And again, when it comes to the WWE, when it comes to that thing, like Paul, that the brand of WWE and what, it offers is by far, one of the top visual, entertainment events that happens on a regular basis, right? Paul's frozen. There he is. Paul's back with us.
Can you hear?
I'm back. Okay. Yeah, you cut out. I'm sorry, I got frozen a little bit. What was the question?
No. What I was saying is that WWE, as massive as it is an entertainment concept, you're not getting much bigger than that than what WWE is doing right now.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you saw what happened in Vegas at the Sphere, or I'm sorry, at the venue that they were at, just selling out. And it's bigger than it's ever been, 100%. I don't know any other franchises that might be as big, and it's got worldwide appeal. It's huge, yeah.
Yeah, when you've got these guys that are jumping into movies and TV and doing commercials and all of this stuff, you're even getting like Dominic is getting like commercial runs with companies. And these are smaller storyline characters that aren't the big main characters, but they're drawing enough weight. It kind of reminds me in a way of like what Major League Baseball has been doing over the last 2 years of really like integrating their superstars into, the entertainment side of things where you're getting more out of them. Major League Baseball is doing a much better job of like pulling out individualized clips, creating storylines around and making you feel about, players a certain way. Right now, if you look at anything MLB right now, it's 100% all in on how Shohei Ohtani is the ultimate competitor and has the best sportsmanship in sports. Like they're trying to pitch this guy as like he is absolutely without the doubt the golden T, if you need a reference of exactly what that would be in that sport. And when you're getting the flip side of it, and WWE coming out and they're getting their guys involved and they're having more of like personable things, they're more available. The big stars are doing bigger like podcasts and hits and going on and doing shows and making themselves available to the media and all this. And some of that wasn't happening in the past. So when you were getting some of the smaller names, you weren't getting the bigger names. Now the bigger names are making themselves accessible, and I think that's really, really helpful to everything. So
because they were getting in trouble in the 80s, a bunch of wrestlers were getting sued because they were putting dudes in real headlocks and putting them to sleep and like breaking collarbones and shit because people would say, "Oh, professional wrestling's fake," and then you get somebody like Hulk Hogan who put, God, what was the? There was
but it was that interview show.
Right, and then Andre the Giant punched a cameraman, and somebody else like totally DDT'd a guy onto concrete on a show, and you see these dudes like getting hurt, and they go, "Is that fake? Is that fake, motherfucker?" And it's just like they for a long time couldn't put these guys in the spotlight and put them on real mainstream media because they were acting a fool when they got out there.
Well, and if you think about how athletic a lot of these guys are too, especially at their size, that's what gets missed is sometimes you don't realize how big some of these guys are because they're in the ring with guys that are even bigger or they're in there. It's kind of like watching an NBA game. When you watch an NBA game, the guy that's 6'8" looks like he's 6 foot. You know what I'm saying?
I am 6'1".
Yeah.
This is Mick Foley standing next to me. And this is after he's had his neck broken and his back broken and all that stuff. Like, he's that tall now, let's see, I'm 47, so he's like 58. He's pushing 60, and he's still like 6'5".
Yeah, and so when you look at the size of these human beings that are doing this, and then they're doing these aerial, things. Like, Logan Paul is one of the smaller guys in this sport, and Logan's big. He's a big dude, and he's super athletic, and he does flips, and he does all of these things. So when you're seeing this, you're getting the entertainment value. I think that's great. The women's side, I think, is very entertaining right now. This card was great. Paul, you had something there?
I was just going to kind of cap on that a little bit with even, and we kind of mentioned this when we did our homage to Sabu, but I remember, this guy's, had been retired for how many, I guess he wasn't retired because he, weeks before his passing, but I was surprised that an older gentleman of his stature, how solid he was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When he gave, when I shook his hand, you could just feel the power coming from him. When he gave me a little love tap on the shoulder, I was like 3 days. And this is, again, and I think I grabbed him by the shoulders one time, and it was just like, oh my God, this guy's as wide as I am, and in such great shape still, and solid. So, yeah, it's deceiving when you see somebody on TV, like you said, they all look like maybe they're 6 foot tall.
Well, and the referees look like tiny dudes in there. The referees are 5'10", 5'11", and just everybody else is so big it makes them look like small people.
Except for Rod, but that's because I know Rod, and he's not 5'7".
Rod, is he the orange guy?
Yeah, he's the one. He's the short referee. He's always got the short cut hair, but
his spray tan has gotten more and more.
It's very, very dark. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I love the guy. So trust me, he's a very good dude. He's actually a toy collector, which is really neat. And he does collect stuff from the sport as well as other toy lines. And but you're right. I mean, you're thinking like those are normal size human beings that are in these rings with these people, and that will really give you an example of how big these guys really are, how stout they are, and then to be as athletic as they are is just incredible. And we've seen it over the years. You've seen guys that were big sports stars, potentially football, basketball, baseball players in the past, and to come out and to show that athleticism in this sport, I think is great. So look, WWE, I think, is doing a really, really good job. The farewell tour for Cena is alive and well, and Cody Rhodes, which is probably the golden boy of WWE at this point, I would say his storyline is right there and drawing well. So I think overall, like they've built themselves something that's going to be a win no matter how they decide to write this out. But I think it's great that we can sit here and speculate 3 to 4 different endings to that storyline that we can't sit here and say that's exactly how it's going to go. We can just simply say, oh, like you did, I think it'll be this. Wait, nope, I forgot about this. Oh, what about this? We will see WWE strong in fashion, and the product is doing well too. WWE action figures, the WWE prop replicas and stuff like that. That stuff is doing really well, and their trading cards are on fire. And the reason you have that is because now that they're fanatics and they're through Tops, the distribution and the things that they're doing, using the pieces, I know we talked about this, of their ring-worn gear and that stuff becoming, event specific, kind of like the debut patches in Major League Baseball. This is setting up to have a really, really strong run that will trickle over everywhere from viewership to collectability and more. So we'll see what they do. Coming up after the break, guys, we are going to get into some of the stuff upcoming for San Diego Comic-Con. That's right. We're looking at the month of July now, and we are looking as the month of the biggest event in the pop culture world. San Diego Comic-Con will be happening this month, and when we get back from the break here, we're going to be discussing this. This is Who the F*** is Frank on GoLiveVegas.
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comicon.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comicon.com.
Stop the gas! Feel the thrill! Chase the legends with dreams fulfilled! and get it right. Lanes to class, race to you at the Voodoo family. Dance around, let them play. Voodoo Boys a place to stay.
GoLiveVegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at GoLive.Vegas.
Well, welcome back to Who the F is Frank here on GoLiveVegas and, of course, One of Us Comics YouTube channel, as well as wherever you get your podcast streamed at, including Spotify. Make sure you give us a follow. Paul Vato makes it back just in time. Of course, he went to go check on Mom, and by check on Mom, he went to go check on the meatloaf. So, of course, we want to thank him there. This segment brought to you by our friends at... What was that?
I said he's got tamales steaming. It's not meatloaf.
Oh, he does. Yeah, it's not meatloaf. It's tamales. My bad. I forgot. But you know, we want to thank our friends over at Voodoo Brewery who sponsors this segment of the show. Thank you to Voodoo Brewery. Make sure you stop by, see them. Voodoo down in the Arts District here in Las Vegas. The owner's incredible. Craft brews and a ton of fun entertainment each and every night. So make sure you go check them out. It's a very fun place to be, and there's a lot to do down in the Arts District right around them. So come down for dinner, go to Voodoo for drinks, and find a spot to hang out for the night. There's a lot of great lounges and everything down there. But Voodoo Brewery, one of our favorites, and we want to thank you for the support that they give us in the podcast. Who the fuck is Frank? Guys, July always turns that calendar. When it does, we're halfway through the year. And that's right about the point where you want all of these major, production companies and the different streaming studios and all of these things have their major announcements, the stuff they're coming out with, leading us into information that's upcoming. And the biggest fan event that occurs every year may not be the largest in attendance, but it is definitely the hardest one to get into. It is one of the must-sees, and especially from the resale side. And I mention that because I think it's really key, because if you can go to this event and you bring a bankroll and are able to pick up a lot of the exclusives and the things that occur at the show, you have an ability to be able to resell those items. And a lot of times people pay for their trips that way. You go to Comic-Con for a weekend and you're there for the weekend. And while you're there, you pick up a bunch of stuff, you take it back home, you sell it in your marketplace, you put it into the online auction houses, or you have, a place to be able to sell it. And a lot of times you're going to be able to cover your trip or do those things. Not a lot of events that you attend that you come back saying, hey, I broke even and I'm feeling good about it. There's an opportunity to do that with San Diego Comic-Con. And of course, that is upcoming at the end of the month here. Again, tickets are sold out. They're pre-sold out. You actually, to be able to get a ticket to Comic-Con, you've got to get into a waiting room. That's the first thing you have to do. Then once you're in the waiting room, you then have to get selected. And then if you get selected, you have the ability to purchase a minimum number of tickets and be able to get those. And then you get those tickets. The tickets and experiences are very tough. The panels are some of the biggest attended things at the event. We were talking last year, if you recall, on creators. I remember that Scotty Young had so many people in the general admission line trying to get in that they could have ran a second panel and filled another 3,000 people into his panel. It's just insane to think what happens. We've had some of the coolest, biggest announcements, and we've had some speculation that we might not see the biggest announcements from Marvel or anything this year because their stuff really isn't slated till after San Diego Comic-Con 2026. So we'll probably get some type of Easter eggs. We're going to see who can take advantage of Comic-Con this year with Marvel not being as strong there. I have a feeling Disney and Star Wars are probably going to make a run at it and see if they can do something. But programming is out there. You can look these things up. There are a lot of great stuff going on. And one of the biggest things that we talk about every single year when it comes to San Diego Comic-Con, because of how this company had built their experience with their consumers and the guests, is what is Funko going to do for Comic-Con? Now, usually Funko will have somewhere around 40 to 80 SKUs of exclusive product that's available there. Now, some of these exclusive products do become what they call part of their shared program, where they'll have a summer convention shared exclusive. They'll work with some of their retailers like a Hot Topic or a Target or a Walmart, and they'll release these items. Of course, Paul got food. See, look. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. Hope you're feeling better. Glad Paul's got you doing work for him. Yeah, he's definitely taking care of her. That's I can see that. But what is Funko gonna do? And Funko always has some really fun stuff. And the one last thing I'll mention that Funko does is that Funko does have the Fun Days event, and they always theme a party around it. It's random to get into. You don't just get invited. A handful of, influencers and celebrities might do that. But outside of that, that's one of those events that you get to. Then you get an opportunity to buy the mystery boxes. Generally, the mystery boxes have been a 3-piece box. It's completely random. You don't know what's in it. You open up the box, and they make exclusives for those Fun Day boxes that we've seen those, as limited of numbers of 12. Right, of pieces that you can get out of them. They use a lot of the Freddy Funko concept. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, Freddy Funko is the Funko mascot, and they'll take him and they'll put him into, different jobs, different careers, different celebrities, different comic book heroes, whatever it is. They'll create, Freddy Funko around. I know one of the years I went that Freddy Funko as Jack Skellington was the big one to chase down. We've seen Freddy Funko as, a bunch of different things. Paul partaking in this Parse rum. I didn't know that you had Mom also as a bartender there, Paul. Just real quick. I mean, maybe Mom should go out and do the Funko Fun Days party and she could bartend for him.
Yeah, we have Parse rum there. This is amazing. This is a Parse iced tea. So it's like a Long Island, but Parse rum. It's delicious.
Yeah, and so we'll do that. But again, Paul makes a good point though when he's talking about these experiences and bringing this up. But these events that are done, and Funko's not the only one that does them. In fact, there's other events that occur that have Funko exclusives at them. I remember Conan O'Brien had Conan Funko Pops. If you went to one of his tapings. That he would do there. So they're really, really active. But anyways, Brendan, I know you have a lot of information about what Funko has coming up this year. And obviously, Aaron, the producer, showing you one of the Freddy Funkos from the past. This is that Jack Skellington. And again, they had this limited. I think the lowest run on this was 24 pieces. So there was a version of 24. And they do this. They'll do 24, 48, 96, and then 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, whatever it is. They'll have different versions of the characters. Here's a Conan O'Brien. But what has Funko got going on this year, Brendan, that really stood out to you?
Well, I'm a Batman fan, and actually one of the exclusives really stood out to me. So the Image Funko SDCC 2025 exclusive shows a few of them together. There we go. And on the right there, you see the Pop Heroes DC Kingdom Come Batman. That's the most common of these Batmans that they're doing. That one, they didn't even say how many pieces they are, and those are selling for $15. We have a close-up of that one, too, with the box. It's SDCC. There we go. So there it is in the box. This one you can get for $15. It's exclusive to the event. This is the one that they're probably, if they have any left over at the end, they'll be selling on their retail site or whatever. But first come, first served is going to be the folks that are at the event. The next one, and this is the one that really struck me as interesting, is Pop Heroes Batman Azrael. This is a $40 piece. This one's limited to 1,500 pieces, and it's from the 1993 DC crossover event Nightfall. Nightfall is one of my favorites, and so I saw Azrael, and I thought that was really weird because I've seen a few depictions of Azrael in collectibles here recently. There's a statue coming out by Sideshow that's Azrael, and there's a couple other things that I've seen. And so I'm wondering if Azrael is going to come out again in one of the new Batman movies that's coming up, or one of the new DC movies that's coming up, because he seems to be getting pushed a lot, Jean-Paul Valley. So I don't know what's going on with this, but I'm seeing a lot of Azrael. Have you been seeing that too?
Well, yeah, and it's very possible. A lot of times the product will kind of predict what's going to occur. You know, we talked about it a few podcasts back about how Nickelodeon's done a great job with TMNT and releasing it at the time that they have cartoons coming out to have product in the stores of new characters or versions of characters. So this isn't surprising to see these leaks, which is what they really are, that kind of indicate what there is in the future. A couple things I wanted to point out. One, when a Funko is 1,500 pieces or less, it is a pretty desirable piece. It does become very hard to get. And I would guess that the secondary market on that figure is probably going to be somewhere between $70 and $100 is probably what that's going to resell for. Also, Funko does limit quantities for people that go through. So a lot of times you can only get one of everything that they have. Right? Mm-hmm. Or they'll pick a handful of them and say you can pick one of these 4 that are super random and rare or whatever it is, trying to create a fair and equal playing field. They generally don't, let you into lines. And then a lot of times what they do is you'll do like a lottery, and your lottery will be for a time slot to be able to line up, and you have to have this, invite to be able to be in it. 2, the stickers that are on there, I think, are important. So one, we're seeing the adaptation of the QR codes that they're doing, and the QR codes create some verification process. This is something that we've seen this. This is actually what Pop Mart is using, where you will use the QR code, and then that QR code will have an exclusive serial number on it, and then you'll punch in a certain number of the digits to be able to actually see if it is in fact a, authentic item, whatever it might be. So it's something that Funko's doing. But that sticker that's on there, when it has the San Diego Comic-Con sticker, even though they might take that Batman Azrael and turn it into a regular exclusive as well, there may be a version of it that loose, you couldn't tell the difference. So the box is open, it's the exact same figure, but that sticker, being San Diego Comic-Con, will always draw a bigger premium than the shared exclusive that might be going to one of their retail partners. So I think it's always important to be able to understand that sometimes you'll look at it and be like, that's the same thing. Why is that one cheaper? This is the reason behind it.
And I wondered why they didn't do blind boxes. So there's 2 other $40 pieces. One of them is the Blueprint Batman 2010 and the Robin Blueprint Green 2010. These are limited to 2010 pieces. They're also $40. So obviously, well, I mean, not obviously, but to me, the Azrael piece is the more desirable one. So if they had taken these 3 and made them blind boxes for $40 a piece, then you would get interest from the start of the show through the end of the show, getting those $40 blind boxes instead of everybody lining up on the very first day to sell out of each of these individually. I feel like a blind box model would have worked really well for this. The 1,500 pieces for the big chase, which is Azrael, the 2010 pieces each for the Blueprint Batman and the Blueprint Green Robin. I wonder why they didn't do blind boxes for these.
Now, usually their blind boxes that Funko does is exclusive to Fun Days. They generally don't do a bunch of blind boxes on individuals or whatever it is. And the Fun Day boxes are usually 3 pops in a Fun Day box, right? And they usually retail somewhere around $50 to $60. And if you're lucky enough to be able to get into the party and be able to get one of those, I think the thing is that these companies, and I know Hasbro's gotten to this quite a bit at San Diego Comic-Con, where they will limit product daily. So they will only put out so much of a product on a day, and then they'll save another chunk of that product for another day. Now, I know that when I went in, I think it was 2019, I recall, everybody was going after a red Stormtrooper, right? And I think it was limited to like 300 pieces. And they would randomly pull cases out throughout the day and put them out, and then all of a sudden you would randomly just get rewarded for being in line at that time. There's a lot of that happens, but when you get under 1,500 pieces of a Funko Pop, it doesn't matter. It just, that the collectible market for it is so big that people will go after these things and they'll pay the premium prices. And again, like I said, I think that I would expect, $50 to $100 for that, the Azrael Batman, at 1,500 pieces. The Robin and the Batman figures that are those, solid colors. Those ones I would expect those to be more like in that $45 to $55 range, probably on the resale market where it'll settle. You'll have some early sales. There'll be some, sales. People will pop up one of those Azraels for $300 and someone will buy it, right? Because they might be a Funko Pop reviewer and they want to be the first one to review one or whatever it is, right?
Right.
You have a lot of that where guys will just pay up because they're creating content from it, so it doesn't matter what it costs them, right? So you have those things that happen. But other things that people don't realize, I think, that Funko does is that, and like a lot of the other manufacturers, this is also a B2B event. And I don't think people realize that a lot of these companies, and Funko does it at their booth, where they actually have a second floor to their booth. And for their partners that have appointments, they'll come out and they'll introduce new catalog items to them that they're announcing at the show, and you can put your pre-orders in for them, especially when it's limited stuff or whatever it might be. And then two, they do the panels, and the panels they'll reveal what some of the exclusive items that they have coming up, right? So Mattel is one of those, right? I've met with Mattel in the past and gone to their, B2B events and whatever it is. And Mattel's got some product coming up. And let's talk about this because it's a Back to the Future exclusive, right?
Yes, sir. So I put these ones in because I thought Johnny was going to be here. Obviously, we didn't know he was going to be sick, but I know how much he loves Hot Wheels. But so there's a slide that's SDCC 2025 Hot Wheels exclusives. It's got both of the exclusives that I'm about to talk about. Aaron, when you get a chance there. But the first one is Back to the Future. There we go. So I want you to look at the right here. So the Back to the Future comes with a diorama. It's a 40th anniversary set. It pays tribute to the exact moment in the film that Doc Brown unveils the time machine in the Twin Pines parking lot. It's a 1:64 scale set. It's got the time machine and Doc's GMC value van from the original film. Both are die cast. They've got real rider wheels and authentic detailing. And the diorama display, it displays really nice in the box. So go ahead to the next slide, please, Aaron. The Back to the Future. There we go. So just as you buy it right there, that looks beautiful on your shelf as a collector.
Yes.
This is $32 and it's a limit of 2 per customer. So they're doing that thing where you can stand in line all day, spend $64 and get 2 of these to take home if you're there within the time that they have it in stock.
Right. And, the display box packaging and the way they package stuff, San Diego Comic-Con is notorious for it, to where companies, I think now, have started to try to compete with their display boxes that come out at San Diego Comic-Con, because they may actually release this as a set with just the van and the car at some point, and it might have like a more flat paint to it, or might not have as nice of wheels or whatever it is, but it'll be on a different retail display. But these San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, they always come up with really unique, fun things. I recall, I think we talked about this before with Mattel, that they used the Robot Chicken episode, with the dentist and Skeletor getting his tooth removed, and then you got the display box and it had Skeletor laying on the table, and the Molar, the dentist, holding up the tooth,
Molar,
right?
Yeah.
So when you have those type things happen, I think those are really fun. And this is another one. And also at the same time, the price point on these things are fair. At $32 for an exclusive set like this, it's pretty limited. That's a great price point, and that's probably going to be something that'll be $100 to $125 down the road on the resale market. That's what I would anticipate that you would see this at, right? So when you have that, that item available, again, to where you're able to acquire a couple of them. If you wanted to sell them, you could, and that might help facilitate your cost to get to Comic-Con, because going to Comic-Con is not cheap.
It's not.
The ticketing is expensive as it is, but it's the travel, it's the hotel accommodations. Book a hotel in San Diego, you're probably not paying under $500 a night, and if you found it at $500 a night, you're probably lucky. Right.
Well, and that's not even anywhere close to the convention center, because all the ones that are within 5 miles of the convention center are in the lottery. So you might end up with a room that's on the edge of the lottery or whatever. You have no idea where it is or whatever. You just put in to get in the lottery, and then they give you the privilege of being able to buy a room at this one place, and that's the only place you can buy it, or you have to be, within Uberable distance or whatever. It's nuts, dude. I don't go to San Diego. I don't like the way it's set up. It's not for me. But I like some of the stuff that comes out of it, and I love that people have that experience. But it's too hectic for me to even get there, to have lodging, and then getting myself around town from whatever hotel, because I like to book within walking distance. I don't like doing Uber and stuff every day to get to. It's definitely an experience, but it's not an experience for me. It gives me anxiety just thinking about it right now.
Now, I think it is fair to explain to people that you can attend San Diego Comic-Con, never walk into the convention center, not have a ticket to go, and there's a ton of things that you can do. The whole Gaslamp district is full of, streets are shut down. There's vendors. They've got activities. They got activations. You got, like we mentioned, Conan O'Brien will have tapings there, and he'll take over like a lounge or a nightlife venue that will, host his shows during the day. There's all kinds of things that occur that you could, get involved with. And I love that, this event exists. Now, being a little homerish here, I do hope that Las Vegas wrangles this event away, because I would love to see this in Vegas. Because in Vegas, I feel like it just became a whole new game. Because in San Diego, you have a lot of like nightlife, venues and stuff like that, but they're not what they are here. They're just not. It's not the same thing that what Vegas offers. We went to a SEMA party, if you recall, and this was one of the ones. I think your invite, Paul, for this probably is still on its way. But we went to this SEMA party, and the SEMA party was the entire top of the, the Hilton, right? The Westgate now. And it was in the Elvis suite, which is the entire, like the whole suite is the size of the top of the casino. And there was like 1,500 to 2,000 people in attendance for this Catskin party. That was just insane, right? There were so many people, and there were celebrities, and there was all these people involved in the industry, and there was sponsors and all kinds of stuff all up in this one thing. And I know this happens at San Diego Comic-Con, but sometimes you're a little limited. And like, let's talk about it. If they came to Vegas and did this, where the convention center is, Funko could hold fun days at the World Market Center. That's 200,000 square feet.
I don't think Comic-Con International wants to give up that much control, because when they're in San Diego, they own everything that's happening within miles of the convention center. They are complete control. They've got a grip on it. You take it to Vegas. Now, see, WWE, when they did WrestleMania in Vegas, they don't care that, Sabu's doing his thing and that people are making their money. Micromania is doing their events, and all these guys are doing their events because they have their stuff going on. They're already making enough money. But when you take Comic-Con International and you put them in a place like Las Vegas, the accessibility is different, but they're not going to get a cut from all the hotels and things, because you could stay at the Stratosphere for $57, right? And get a cheap, flat rate Uber down to whatever convention center they're at, the Sands or whatever. I don't think that's, it's good for the city of Las Vegas. It would be good for the fan experience, but San Diego for a long time has not been about fan experience. They don't care that you're being wrestled in like cattle. They're making their money because that's the place that everybody wants to be, and they have a complete headlock on everything that's happening on the business end of it.
No, they do. And it's a who's who, right? All the major manufacturers have exclusives. All the publishers have appearances from their rock star, artists and story writers. This is where, some people, I remember a story. This one was a fun one. But there was a gentleman that was a statue carver, right? And he would make statues, and he did some work for some companies or whatever. And he went and he met with the creator of the Dragon Show, the House of Dragons. Why can't I think of it off the top of my head? Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones.
The other one, yeah.
And they did a deal on a napkin, because Game of Thrones hadn't popped yet, but he was there with his fiction, with his books. And he's like, hey, can I license this to do statues? And then HBO does the deal for the rights to the show, and then they go to him and they bought the rights to the statues. So, and they did it on a napkin. The deal was done on a napkin. It was done absolutely great. And this guy had done sculpting for McFarlane and a bunch of those. So his stuff was really, really good. It was done very well. And it's funny because some of his sculptings that they did, they cast based on what he produced. So they actually cast characters to look like the statues rather than the statues being made. Because what he did is there wasn't art renditions in those books. Those were hardback books. They weren't picture books. They weren't comic books. So there was no creative behind it. You just got a description in the book of what the character looked like or whoever it was. So then all of a sudden when you get in there and what did Circe look like or what it was, that's what they did. And so when he created these statues, then they kind of cast him off of that. So you never know what the next thing up that's going to get made that is first found at San Diego Comic-Con. So definitely a fun event, definitely interesting. And it is the staple event in the pop culture hobby, right dead center in the middle of the year. It is one of those that's on the radar for everyone. If you're a show producer, you don't produce a show the week before or the week after San Diego Comic-Con because it is just too hard to get the attendance from the vendor or whatever it is. And, attendees go all in when they're there. So we expect to see a lot of really great things. We'll probably have a lot of great news at the end of the month here for us to go over and everything. And we'll be talking about that. When we come back from the break, guys, we're going to be getting into this week's comic books. We're really trimmed it down this week, but we're going to focus in on those. And we'll, have some light discussion about the world of pop culture and everything. But this is Who the F*** is Frank on GoLiveVegas.
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comicon.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews, previews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comicon.com.
Stop the gas! Feel the thrill! Chase the legends the dreams fulfill! In the game, where you surrender! It's all here again and unleash wind, fuel the fire, let the flame begin. And this monsters ignite your flame. Every clock, every dream, every game.
Come on down to the good old bar. Craft beer's never too far. Like do every night, do it through and get it right. Raise the glass, raise the you hat, the booze, family, dance around. Let them play. Voodoo Boys a place to stay.
GoLiveVegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
Well, we want to bring you back to Who the F*** is Frank here on GoLiveVegas and the One of Us Comics YouTube. Of course, you can also find us on Spotify. And, of course, what Paul did was he froze his frame because he was enjoying his brunch. He had to enjoy his brunch. How's brunch over there, Paul? How's it going? Oh, he's muted himself? Or did Aaron, the producer, mute him as requested? No, Paul is definitely muted right now, so we'll circle back to Paul here in a minute when he gets his audio issues figured out. This segment brought to you by the Nerd Bar in Neonopolis, Fremont Street experience, upstairs, second floor. Make sure you stop by, see our friends at the Nerd. Always coming up with cool, creative, and fun things to do. And, as things happen, things like, I don't know, a Superman movie that's coming out, you'll expect there will be some type of Superman-themed event at the Nerd Bar. Great place to go. fun cocktails, and of course you got all the activity in there. You can do bowling, you've got arcade, you can ride the bull. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. Plus, there's great memorabilia both to shop and to look at. So make sure you stop on down there and see our friends at the Nerd Bar. Sounds like Paul's back, and the reason I could tell is because it sounded like he drug his mic on the way here. So welcome back, Paul. And how you doing over there? You doing all right, Paul? You were itching there at the end of the last segment, so I didn't want to miss you. And he is muted again. All right, Paul is 0 for 2. What he's doing, though, is he's giving Brendan Allen his absolute wish. There you go.
Oh, here we go. No?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
and
can hear you
finally, you were able to...
So I just wanted to say, but besides my own technical difficulties, that this has got to be one of the best shows ever. I don't know what's different, but I feel like moving forward, it should really just be the three of us, because this has been just an amazing.
He doesn't want Brett taking his chair, is what it is. He's making a case for Brett never being on the show again.
Or Johnny, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, I think that if we just move forward this way, guys, it's an award-winning show this way. We're not having to listen to some deep voice, some deep-throated, announcer Brett, or Johnny's knowledge of, throwing in about Hot Wheels, whatever. I think that this, guys, is the show.
So what he's saying, Steve, is that he doesn't feel threatened by either one of us. Those two are the ones that he feels threatened by.
100% right. 100% right. This show I can kind of dominate, but with the other two guys, I just can't. So I'd appreciate it from moving forward. We just, did this. Mom, I need another drink. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. She's recovering nicely from surgery, though.
I really hope that's a sister or somebody who's bringing you all that food, and that your mom, who had surgery a couple days ago, is not really bringing you all this stuff.
It is our caretaker. So yeah.
Okay.
She's
Thank you.
I was going to tell you that there was no doubt that was hired help by Paul.
But now she's also taking care of me, so
changing diapers, getting drinks, cutting up his chicken nugs. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, his dinosaur nuggies are definitely getting divided up for sure. I can't wait. What's on the dinner menu, right? Because you don't eat breakfast, you eat brunch. You don't eat dinner, you eat dinner, right?
That's it. Ground beef, deviled potato salad, and a nice little just green salad that I'll just probably throw away.
There you go.
That's garnish, is what that is.
It's just a garnish.
It's garnish. Like who'd have thunk it that we'd be eating kale? I remember that kale was decoration around the Ponderosa.
They used to tell us it was poisonous. Don't eat the kale; it'll make you sick. When they had it on the buffets and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, it's salad. 100%. I guess
I had kale last night. I did. I had kale last night.
You said Gale. Jesus Christ.
So, every week, every Wednesday, we get new comic books. New comic books have been coming out in a absolute flourish. There's been a ton of titles over the last month that have come out. We did have a little bit of disruption at the One of Us Comics in Henderson with some of our distribution of the comic books that were coming in, and we did miss some titles over the last couple of weeks. Everything is back on par. Thank you to our distributors. Got everything set up and back and rolling. And now the new books are coming with the flurry. But this week, we really wanted to focus on just a couple of books. It wasn't a ton. But Brendan, why don't you get us into some of these number ones for big name characters?
All right. So, the timing of this one is it's so predictable, but they're doing a new numbering on Captain America. Captain America #1. This is the origin of Captain America and Doctor Doom's first meeting, and there's a first appearance of a character called David Colton. So when Captain America slumbered in ice, the world changed for better and for worse. Steve Rogers awakens to a reality where battles are fought in the shadows through secrets and subterfuge, and villains aren't so easy to identify. Chip Zdarsky is working on this one with Valerio Schiti. And this is supposed to be a game-changing new era of Captain America, but it ties into Doom. It's also, it's coming out on the 2nd, and 4th of July is happening the Friday after this one comes out. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they came out with, Captain America this week.
The timing is great. And Marvel, I would say of any of them, Marvel is very good at not missing event-based books, right? And so for having, the birthday of our nation, and the celebration that happens to put a Captain America out that week, yeah, you're right. People are going to buy it off the newsstand just because of that.
Right.
And we see that.
There's a variant of this one that I thought was really interesting. It's a 1 in 50 Jean Romita Jr. And this one is just so classic Cap that this one screams to me more than the other cover. This is the one that I would pick up because it reminds me so much of like 90s era Cap.
Well, in John Romita art, I mean, has become significantly more desirable. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about the artist impacts and their signatures and their remarks on books at the end of this segment. But he's one of the ones that when you capture his autograph on one of these books or his sketch work on one of these books, it always draws a premium because of what his art is. And this is, you're right, classic John Romita Jr. here. Paul, this might be, the artwork on it might be a little older Cap for you. It might not be as 90s Cap friendly, although I joked because a lot of John Romita's work was in the 90s for senior, for junior, not for senior, but for junior. So, Paul, this is one that, you might want to pick it up and, learn about that art style.
That is amazing. I love both of those, but I think you're spot on with this particular variant of it. It is, hey, look at me using comic words, but this is such an amazing cover. I love it. But I love both of them, and I'm a big fan of Captain America. Getting into him in the '90s, like you said. But no, this more antique looking cover that you guys would be more familiar with is definitely spot on, man. I love it. It looks great.
Yeah, and again, as Brendan brought up, just that classic look to Cap, and then of course, John Romita Jr. artwork, always desirable. So yeah, this will be a nice variant cover for people to chase, the incentive cover. The next book is The Immortal Thor, number 25, and this has an interesting turn of events.
Right. So they're advertising this as the death of Thor, which, we know how that goes with superheroes. They're not going to kill their cash cow. But in this story, Thor dies. The story ends. At the end of this tale, Thor strode into Vidblain, third land of the dead, whence nothing could return. And there, beyond all battles, beyond all cares, he stood and fought for justice one last time against the great serpent who wore his own face and held his own hammer. This was the story of immortal Thor and the deciding of his fate. So they're saying that he dies and he's in the land of the dead, but we know that that's not going to last very long because Marvel.
Because Dr. Stephen Strange will go back and alter it. I mean, isn't that the move? Is that him or Silver Surfer goes and alters the time and then fixes something and then it doesn't happen?
Some technicality where like a part of him dies or some form of him dies or it's a different time. They'll figure out some back way to get Thor back because Thor is one of the biggest sellers for movies and toys and.
Yeah, I mean Thor and Loki, very very popular characters in their own, and obviously Loki coming from the Thor, universe of Marvel. Now I like this cover. But man, this variant cover that you pulled, this is cool.
Right. So this is the Dan Jurgens Retrovision variant, and again, this is going back to a classic look of Thor. This book right here, this cover, you can see he's got the old armor on, he's got the wings on the helmet and stuff like that. This is a very very classic look for Thor, and I really love it when they do these retros.
And it also what I love about it is that the color palette they used is more retro looking. It's got a little bit of that retro color fade to it, which really fits. And I like that they used the Mighty Thor logo also. I thought that was an interesting, piece as well. So to be able to do that, and then they've even got the character identification on the top left, right, instead of the book number and, some of the things that they would do. Now this next one that's up, this is the Wolverines and Deadpools. Number 1, so it's not just Wolverine versus Deadpool, but now it's plural.
It's so tongue-in-cheek that they are doing this right in front of you and they're telling you that they're doing it. They are going to milk Wolverine Deadpool until it's dead. They're going to continue. It's a running joke at this point, but the stories have been pretty good. So this is a 3-issue team-up of Logan, Laura Kinney, Wade Wilson, and Ellie Camacho. It says Claws and Mutants, Mercs and Mouths, Deadpools and Wolverines. What's better than the best there is, partnered with the Merc with no mouth? How about adding daughters Ellie Camacho and Laura Kinney to the mission as they go up against the classic ex-villain Oh, they don't say which. Okay, but what Wolverine and Deadpool's baby is the solicit for this one. And again, Wolverine Deadpool was huge for them. People buy into it. They love this. And as many different titles as they can come up with, they're going to, because people keep buying them and because it's funny. It's an inside joke. It's very tongue-in-cheek, but it still works.
Well, we had a conversation yesterday in store, and we were talking specifically about the Laura Kinney Wolverine and how, although I like that, and I just kind of wish that the intention behind her would have not been to give her like Wolverine suit. Maybe this one at least gives that ability to say, hey, look, they existed in a verse together in which, they both wore the same style suit. So that way it makes a little bit more sense, because it didn't make a ton of sense that Laura Kinney Wolverine just all of a sudden donned a very almost identical suit to Wolverine, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, Paul, this has your classic Wolverine on it. We know you love Wolverine. You guys have the same haircut. So, what, with this, like, is this a type of book? Is this something that would draw you in, or is it more like, hey, it looks cool, but probably not for me because they've done it too much? What's your thought on this?
No, I do. I love, but I love all iterations of it. But for this, for me, kind of almost gives me, and I could be totally off here, like a Conan comic book cover. I don't know if you see that or not, but I just remember like with the reds and the muscles and all that. But I mean, I'm a big, I am such a big fan of Wolverine. I'm going to definitely start styling my hair more that way. So instead of like Kim Jong-un, I'll be more of a Wolverine character, I think. But
yeah,
that's
if
a beautiful
in
cover.
points,
I love that.
Yeah, we got to get it up there in points. Perfect. Yeah, we'll have you work on it. Another great cover that's out there on this is another Retrovision, right?
Yeah, so they did an Andrea DeVito Retrovision on this one. And again, I didn't realize until just now how many retros I put up there, but go ahead and put the other, there we go. But this is a very, very 90s style cover where they've got the superheroes in the front, they've got the secondary characters in the back, but everybody is clear. They've got their little quadrants set, and the quadrants are actually almost kind of broken up by Deadpool's katana there, which I don't know if that was intentional or not, but this is a clean cover. There's a lot of place for signatures on it, and again, it's one of those retro throwback styles. You see the corner box has the heads on it, the old style of the Marvel corner box on it. It's a cool cover.
This reminds me of those early 90s like team ups covers, right? And they had those team up covers, so that's what this reminds me of. I do love those. I thought those were really fun covers, and always the cover, like, I wouldn't be surprised like if neither of Wolverine or Deadpool was on the interior here and it was only their cohorts or something like that, because that was very like part of the concept where they would do artwork on the cover for those team ups and then it wouldn't actually be what's in the book. So
or when the cover artist would do something that's like a photoreal, right, and it's like in pastels and painted, and then you get inside and it's super simplistic, like cartoony art, and you're like, what the hell, because they didn't match. Now there's so many variants that they never match. But it used to be like you'd look at the art on the cover and you'd be sold on that, and then you open it up and something completely different, because there were guys whose bread and butter in the 90s was just doing covers.
And the 90s cover artists are some of the biggest artists right now. Those guys that really, delved into it and had a big footprint into it are some of your biggest stars, right? And then in the modern world, you've got, those guys that a lot of times pay homage back to those type covers and some of the late 70s covers and, a little bit of the tail end of Silver Age stuff. So, it's great to see this. I love seeing this. To me, this is a book that everybody that sees it's going to buy this version of it. The other cover, I don't know that the other cover sells the book as much as the story sells the book, right? Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, I feel like that's where, it is for me. That's where I think that that this goes, and it's great. And we're talking about these retro covers, and we were talking about John Romita Jr. We're having these discussions of the impact of these artists on the covers, right? Because there are certain artists that just draw interest, right? And like right now, obviously, J. Scott Campbell is one of those guys. I think, Tyler Kirkham is another one of those guys that really draws the interest on covers. There's, a handful of people out there. Peach Momoko, probably the biggest of all of them as far as like when Peach Momoko cover drops. You know, it's crazy. Gabriella Del Otto's another one that when the Del Otto covers are out, those are big. So when you have these artists that do these covers and you have these covers that really kind of jump out, it shows you the impact that the artist has on that specific book's interest. That Marvel and DC almost like need to make sure that they do a version of a book to make sure that like their big superstar artist or, you know, story writer has something to do with it. And I think back to, you know, Absolute Batman 1 when it came out, you know, the cover was not Jim Lee, but the variant cover was Jim Lee. They made sure there was a Jim Lee cover to that book. And they wanted to make sure that their biggest names are on these books. And that's what happens a lot of times to these ones. So, you know, you look for these variants, you find the variants that got strong, you know, strong artists and story writing to it. And now that's what you're taking to your next event, right? Your next time they make an appearance and sign autographs. And I want to talk today a little bit about how getting your books autographed impact value, because we've looked at this, you know, over the show. We've talked about this, how an autograph can, you know, affect the value, or we can have a actor or an artist that, you know, they draw a premium at an event for their autograph or whatever it is. And sometimes that premium doesn't, you know, correlate over to the resale side. A lot of times you're paying for experience and not for the money there. Right, Brendan?
Right. So what I was going to say, and actually I had this hanging on the wall. We brought it up earlier, but this picture of me and Mick Foley is autographed. I saw him at two different events, one where I got the picture and another where I got it autographed. But the thing is you're going to spend, you know, $40 for somebody like Mick to take a picture with you. You're going to spend $800 to get like Hayden Christensen to take a picture with you. Nobody but me gives a shit about that picture or the signature that's on it. So the thing is that you're paying for the experience, and the souvenir that I'm taking away is the photo and the autograph of it. And that's the way a lot of these autographs are set up at shows, is you're getting the experience for the $40, $50, $100, $200, $800, whatever you're paying. Because when you turn around a resale, when we were talking about the Darth Vader stuff and talking about Hayden Christensen, one of the things that Johnny said is, well, I could probably sell that for like $200. But they're not charging $200. They're charging $800. You're paying that extra $600 for being in the presence of Hayden Christensen. So there's a big difference between the stuff that makes me happy and the stuff that is resellable or has a value in the secondary market. Because a lot of times people think that they're going and they're getting this book signed or whatever, and it's going to be the greatest thing. But there's a lot of factors that go into the actual value of that book that have nothing to do with your experience at San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, or wherever you were, that you were in the presence of the person who signed it.
Right. And that, you know, going out and obtaining these autographs, Paul, you've been around a ton of celebrities over the years, and you know, you've talked to them about signing autographs in sessions. We just had David Faustino on that was talking about, you know, signing the Funko Pops and doing these signings at events and all of this. That world, it's become a secondary business for them. But there's also a handful of these guys that don't like to sign, right?
Yeah, of course. And you get that autograph, it's that much more valuable down the road. But yeah, there's plenty that don't, and then other ones just love thrive. I mean, I know a few that at one point that's how they were making most of their money, and they're walking out with garbage bags full of cash because, you know, maybe a new movie just dropped or something, and then they're at one of these Comic Cons, and the lines are long, and it's all cash. At least, you know, I think now everything, you know, is digital and PayPal, all that. But before, they were walking out of there with literal garbage bags full of cash just from signing autographs. But yeah, there are many that are kind of, you know, I don't want to say more of an artist, but they're more about, no, this is my work, I'm putting it out there, and I'm not going to sign autographs just so that you make money. I remember when I went to go visit Saturday Night Live back in the late 90s. Well, I'm dating myself there. But there were autograph seekers that were looking to get autographs because I gave an autograph because they thought I was Horatio Sands, and I felt so bad for this cute little couple because they're like, oh, we are from Chile just like you, and I go, I'm not, you know, I'm not who you think who you think you are. I go, I'm somebody else, and they're like, no, please give us an autograph. So I gave an autograph with just my own name. So they might have it on their mantle, still thinking like, oh, we met Horatio Sands, but no, it was Paul Vato. So
You're like
but yeah,
that fake Hulk
there
Hogan
are
in India
people.
that goes around convincing people at schools and stuff as a public speaker that he's actually Hulk Hogan.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But there are people that line, I think to this day, at 30 Rock, line up as they're leaving because they know what door you're going to exit. You're going to jump in the limo and go to the after party. They're going to be there collecting autographs and now maybe trying to take selfies or however. I haven't been there for a while. I was never invited back. I don't know why. But yeah, it's some artists don't sign, and then others it's not going to be worth anything because they'll sign anything. So yeah, definitely.
Well, and that's,
Well,
I'm glad you brought that up because that was really something that I wanted to point out is that when you have guys that don't sign often and guys that do sign often, how that can affect that signature does affect whatever the item is. And Brendan, I knew you were going to say something in regards to that.
Well, I was just going to say, I saw a reel coincidentally yesterday of Mark Hamill talking about giving autographs like at the airport. And the thing is, Mark Hamill does events where he signs, and he's happy to sign. You pay the fee, he signs whatever, and he'll sign for kids all day long. But when an adult walks up to him and says, hey, I'm such a big fan, can you sign these 5 things? He goes, hey, you know what? I don't have a lot of time. Let's just take a selfie instead. And a lot of times they'll be like, no, I really need these. I want to sign my lightsaber or whatever. And he's like, that's not a fan. That's somebody who, by the time I get on my plane, that's going to be on eBay. But a real fan, if I say, no, let me take a picture of you and me on your phone, a real fan's going to jump at that. And that's how he determines whether or not he's going to sign when he's in a rush and when it's not a thing where he knows that people are getting it for money or something like that. Because you paid him $40, you're going to turn around and sell it for $100 because it's Mark Hamill, because Star Wars is so big or whatever. And I thought that was an interesting tool that he uses. And it's true. I would take a selfie with my favorite wrestler or my favorite celebrity or something like that all day long over a piece of paper that's signed. And if they were willing to do that, that is a very fair line to draw for them as people out in public that you're kind of accosting with a request.
Well, there's also, there's another thing where you have sports athletes and artists, celebrities, whatever it is, that they'll sign differently based on where they're at. So like, for example, and I'll tell you, I do this. If I'm just signing like something real quick, like I run into someone in public and they ask me, hey, could you sign this or whatever? It's just a quick sig, right? It's just real quick. Mm-hmm. But if it's actually something that like I'm at a convention, I'm making an appearance for a brand, whatever it is, then I'm going to take time and I have a signature that I've put time into, right? And that's the one that you get at the event. Now, I'm not saying my is valuable. I'm just saying simply that when it's in the moment and it's off the cuff, I just run through it real quick because you didn't buy a ticket to go there. You didn't come to see me. You didn't take the time out of your day. You casually came across me. You ran into me somewhere, wherever it is. And it is a little bit different. It probably does make some of the authenticating on some of these autographs a little tough, right? So what I want to do today is just kind of give you an idea of impact of value, right? So I pulled some books up and Aaron's got them ready to go. And the first book I pulled is one that's going to be kind of off people's radars. This is a Vertigo book and it's The Sheriff of Babylon #1, right? And this book in particular, now, of course, in true Aaron fashion, he decided he'd get on his phone than rather have the images ready, in which he did prep. Let's give him credit. He did prep them. They are now unprepped. So he basically did the work to undo the work. But this is a book that I would point out that this book raw, no signature, no autograph, and not graded. This book sells for about $15, $12 to $15 on average, right, for this book. But when you add the signatures to it, it can significantly change the value. So for an example, this book in particular has Mitch Gerard's and Tom King on it. Now, Mitch Gerard's probably signs a little more often than Tom King does. And because of that, you're more likely to have this book with Mitch's signature on it, right? Well, if this book, raw, again, not graded, had Mitch's autograph on it, you're gonna be able to sell that book for about $30. So you can basically double the value of this book, right? If you take that same book that you now doubled the value on and you put Tom King on it, that book will sell for almost $100 raw. And a graded version of this, can sell like upwards, like as a 9.8 like this book could sell upwards of $250 with the 2 autographs on it as a 9.8, because there's a couple of variants there, right? Variant number 1 is you've got autographs on there, and that means that in this case, 2 people have touched the book. So now there's more of a chance for there to be flaws from handling, from their hand pressing on it, whatever it is, right? So making sure that your autographs are clean. 2, if the autograph's in a weird spot, let's say it was in the middle of the book, kind of off the torso of the main character, and it was signed in black, that's not going to look as good as the white space autographs that you see on the right and left side. So these all have part of the value play into these books. And Brendan, from covering over the years at Comic-Con, that these artists, there's certain artists that appear often. There's certain artists you never see. There's combos that are almost impossible to get on books. And in some cases, you get books that have, 4 or 5 people that
is not a
do it. I'm sorry. You have like 4 or 5 people that will be on a book.
We have a little bit of a delay, so it's hard to tell where your pauses are. So there's like a pause, and then I go, oh, and then, so I'm sorry to step on you right there. I was just about to say that Tom King, when you see him at New York Comic Con, there's always a queue. So that's the other thing, is his availability at a show. He's always at New York Comic Con every single year, but you're going to wait an hour and a half or 2 hours to get that signature, no matter what you're getting signed.
Right. And that, that factors into what the autograph on the book might be. So when you're obtaining these autographs and you're doing this, and we'll go to the next book, because I wanted to point this out, because this is a really great book to discuss this about, because this is the 4th printing of Venom number 3. Now this is the first appearance of Noel, right? And Noel was our big protagonist in the new Venom movie. And by the way, if you haven't watched it, well, yeah, spoiler alert. But Noel's appearance, this book has become one of the key books in the modern phase of comic books, right? It's one of the more key books, because we're actually expecting that Noel is going to have a heavy hangover, into the Marvel universe outside of Venom. And so we know that this character is going to be tied in at some point. You're going to have these things happen. And there's guys that do sign and there's guys that don't. Now, this one is signed by Donny Cates and by Ryan Stegman. And I would argue that although Donny Cates signs more often, this is one of those times where Donny Cates' autograph actually holds a stronger value than Stegman's does.
It does. So, okay, so there's my pause. Okay, so I want to talk about Donny Cates real quick. So Donny was off of the convention scene for a long time, and nobody knew what was going on, and there was all kinds of speculation or whatever. But what actually happened is he was in a car accident. He had a traumatic brain injury, and he totally forgot about all of the comics that he ever written. So he was able to, he forgot a period of comics. So he was able to go back and read them again as a reader, the stuff that he had written. So one of the reasons why Donny Cates on this book is so special is because Donny signed it. That is a great Donny signature in the white space right there. And he's not at a lot of conventions right now because he's still kind of getting back in the game. You see him announced more and more often, but still it's maybe 2 or 3 conventions a year. It's not the 15 or 12 that he was, that he was doing before. And, he created Null. That is one of his characters that when he was on the Venom run, that was one of his creations. So he is the originator of the character. He's not very common at shows right now. So you might have been holding on to this comic for 5 years, 6 years from the time that he introduced Null to get it signed. And because Donny Cates was so long gone from conventions, now you barely catch him, maybe once or twice a year. That signature right there, that is a rare catch.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it changes, because there was a period of time he signed more often than anybody else on this book. He was the guy that you would go out and you would find him. And to be honest with you, his lines weren't crazy long. But then once that occurred, right, all of a sudden you saw his autograph value just going up, because now you're right. They're not as frequent. There's not as many out there. And especially on certain versions of the book. And that's why I wanted to point this one out, because of the fact that this was a 4th printing. Because the first printing of this book is the most common, right? That's the one that we see signed the most often and has probably the most amount of Donny Cates signatures. The rest of them have significantly less. And so from that standpoint, I think that that's what makes some of these books unique and interesting. And as you bring that point up, it's exactly what helps in a secondary market value. And then again, to have this book as a 9.8, to be able to do that and have it. And now they've got the new labels. So you've got Knoll on the label up there that CGC is doing, which I think that is done really well. Their character labels are. The character labels are now drawing a value increase to your grading of comics if you grade your book with the character images on it. Because it's, look, at this point, when you slab this thing up, you put up, it's an art piece. It's not a book to read anymore. It's an art piece, right? It's something to showcase and show off. So this is really great. The next one and the final book that I have, this is a staple book, right? And what I mean by that is that this is a Stan Lee book, that this is the type book that Stan would sign on a regular basis. Generally something that has a lot of the characters that he had some involvement with the origin of. Some of them are his characters. Some of them he created. Some of them are, creations that were done underneath his watch that are on there. So this particular book, this is Marvel Legacy #1. And this one is a late signed Stan Lee. So this one was actually on the labels. It's pretty cool. When you get a CGC witness, it'll actually tell you when the book was signed. So this particular book was signed in October of 17, right? So this was just before Stan passed. This book was signed. And they did the Stan Lee label, which was a Stan Lee Collectibles label that they had, right? And they had the Stan Lee label, so that was one of the things. Now the Stan Lee label can be requested as part of the character set. Not always do they do it. I think they're offered in waves. It's weird how they do it. Sometimes it's available. I've seen other times where they don't do it. But to have Stan on here, if you notice, it's not an impactful signature. It's really not. It is in the white space, which is nice because sometimes Stan would just grab a book and he would have signed right over the top of Black Panther and you wouldn't even be able to tell that his autograph was in there. And then there's other times where it's done well, and at least this one really jumps out to you and indicates, that Stan Lee signed it. But the funny thing is that you can take almost any comic book, because this particular book is not a very expensive book, right? Itself. Like this book raw, like the Babylon book, probably isn't worth any more than maybe $20 raw. But once you put Stan Lee's signature on there, this book is worth hundreds of dollars. And then when you get it graded, and this is going to be a mid-grade for this book, a 9.4, right? That's going to be a mid-grade for it. Most of the graded versions of this book are going to be in that 9.6 range. Well, the thing is, it's got a Stan Lee auto. And now this book with Stan Lee's auto, there's only a handful out there. There is not thousands of this book signed by Stan Lee because there were so many different books that Stan could sign. He has a ton of signatures out there, but they're spread across any and everything Marvel, right? And his character sets, obviously, and you get back to a lot of the origin characters and stuff, and that really creates value. But even on this book, just to put it in perspective, because it's on this book, it has a Stan Lee label, and even though it's only a 9.4, this is still over a $400 comic book because it has Stan's signature on it. So sometimes these creators, they get their signatures on certain books, they get sketches on certain books, and that can really impact the value of the book. So sometimes it's about what the pop report or the population would be of the number of books that actually have his signature on it, and then what grade level it's at, right? Like as a independent standalone book, there might be 1,000 or more 9.8s graded of that book. And I didn't look up the population, on that, but there could be. But with Stan Lee's auto, there might be 25. And now all of a sudden, that's a completely different animal, right, Brendan?
Yeah, no, there was an example that I put in the notes, and just the difference. There's a massive difference between a Stan Lee autographed Spider-Woman Alpha #1 and just a random Silver Surfer from the middle of a run with the Stan Lee on the cover. The Stan Lee Silver Surfer obviously is going to be worth some money, but there is only one known graded autographed Spider-Woman Alpha #1 with Stan Lee on it. There's one, and it went for like it was like 30 grand that one sold for at auction.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. When you get into these like single signature items, and especially when you get into some of the vintage books, you get into golden and silver age books, like early silver age stuff that's signed by guys that either are no longer with us. You know, I remember getting a Win auto on a Hulk 181 and a Stan Lee auto on that same book, and that just immediately changed that value, that book, significantly for the person that we taxied it for, right? Like, when you get that type of thing, I think that looking at Pop Report is probably really important to do when you're starting to weigh like what books to get signed. And I'll kind of wrap this segment with Ryan Otley was at Amazing Las Vegas Comic-Con last weekend, right? Or 2 weekends ago now, I guess. And Ryan Otley was one of the biggest draws at the show because he did Invincible, and he's got a bunch of Invincible covers, and he did the Battle Beast covers, which is a new release. And you start looking, there's going to be a ton of that stuff that's signed by Ryan Otley, but the high grade stuff on the Invincible, like 1 through 15, those are going to be really hard to come by. Because that book already doesn't grade very well. It's not an easy, 9.8 book. You don't just buy it and go, yeah, this will be a 9.8. Like, there's a lot of things that happened with that. One, when Invincible first hit, was it like it is now? Not even close, right? It was not nearly as popular as it is now. Now you get it in, and now you're getting his autograph on it, and he's appearing and signing more often, so he's signing more of this stuff. But there's times and there's artists out there, when you go and look at some of their work, some of the things they've done. I remember we had a book taxied to a Jim Lee signing, and it was like one of the first Jim Lee covers that he did. And Jim talked about, hey, I'll do a signing, and I might have 2 of these come up during an entire weekend of signings at an event. And all my other like key books will, I'll have 50 of the exact same X-Men book in an hour, right? So there are books that the population report will dictate what that value actually is for your book. It'll help elevate the value of it. It'll give you, it'll give you something along the lines of, whatever, that artist has done, that if you can find books that don't have high populations and you can grab that autograph on that artist and grade it, you could all of a sudden be looking at it 3, 4, 5xing your book and the autograph value just because there's not many out there. So it's not an exact science to sit here and say, hey, if Ryan Otley signs your book, it's worth $25 more. It doesn't work that way. It's what book is it? How many are in population? Does it grade high? These are all the variants, even if you do it as an autograph on a raw book, because when you go to sell that book, the next buyer is probably looking at it saying, hey, can I submit this through CGC and the JSA label witness program and actually get it, authenticated that way? Can I, do that? And then what does it, multiply the book at? Well, again, it's those books that don't have a lot of population out there that can really drive that extra value. And I think down the road, population report's going to become as important as to what the book is. And especially when it comes to autographs, and then when we get into remarks. And on remarks, when you're talking about sketches and drawings by artists and stuff on there, that becomes a whole nother game. Because now there's certain books, like I know there's some Captain, like early Cap books out there that Stan signed, and he signed Excelsior on it, but he stopped signing Excelsior on those books like super early on. And there's only a handful of them that exist that have that on there. And that book will sell for 3 to 4 times what the exact same grade book with just his signature on there would be. So, being able to find that, look that, it's a research thing. It's a lot of work to be able to keep up on it. But if you get good at it, this could be a way for you to take a book like the Babylon, that's only a $15 book. Put it in your collection, get it autographed, get it graded, and all of a sudden you're going, hey, my book's worth $200 plus. And all I did was go out, spend some time at an event, meet some creators, have fun in the hobby that I love, and acquire some autographs to be able to do it. So getting your books autographs from these creators, I think is a really, really fun thing to do. And it does have some potential upside for you to be able to gain, value in your collectible. So hopefully you guys can do that. Go out and get some signatures and have some fun. And speaking of signatures, one of our sponsors, PokeCon LV, has announced some of their guests that they have coming up. They have the voice of Mewtwo coming up to the show, also, which is Jay Goshi. We also have Michelle Knotts, who will be there, and she is a voice of a bunch of Team Rocket. She's some of the Pokemon herself. She's some trainers, so definitely some people to get. We are making the announcement that Chum Lee will be at the event. He will be buying and selling. He'll be there for your autographs as well. If you want to come by and meet Chum and see Chum, do a deal with him at the show. Obviously, Chum was on the episode of Pawn Stars that I was on, where we evaluated the Charizard collection along with Pokemon King Gary. That event, September 20th and 21st at the Ahern Hotel and Convention Center. You can get your tickets now. Go to PokeconLV.com and you can get your tickets there. Please make sure you guys do that. And then if you would like to podcast like us, please make sure you drop a line over to our friends here at GoLiveVegas, and we'll go ahead and make sure that you get a chance to do it. And what you're seeing right here on the screen is your chance to elevate your creator level. All you got to do is go to GoLiveVegas, sign up with this QR code, join the team, and you can get into the Influencer Academy with them and their program. And what it does for you is it gives you the opportunity to be able to go live a lot sooner with TikTok than you might be able to do if you tried to scale it yourself, because they have benchmarks in which you have to do to be able to go live. And in the case with GoLiveVegas, if you're doing it underneath their umbrella, they're allowed to go live. So therefore it makes your account able to go live. So if you'd like to do more, reach out to Aaron and Raquel, the team at GoLiveVegas. They'll get you more info. They'll be glad to answer any questions you have. You can reach out to them on social media or go to GoLive.Vegas, and you can go ahead and get signed up there. Reach out to them by email. And of course, we want to thank Aaron and Raquel for all the production and work they do on our podcast. We give Aaron a lot of flack, but really we appreciate everything that he does and everything he does there. Guys, I got a text message from Frank. So we had been exchanging a little bit of messages, and we were talking about leading off into the 4th of July, but more of this being the midway point of the year. And Frank started off with the halfway point isn't a time to slow down. It's a checkpoint to refocus, re-energize, and recommit to the vision. While others may be distracted or discouraged, we're locked in, building brick by brick, solid planning, relentless execution, and a clear purpose, and what separate dreamers from doers. This 4th of July, we celebrate not just independence, but the freedom to create, to build, and lead. Let's finish strong and make the second half of this year our most impactful yet. Hashtag vision driven, hashtag entrepreneur mindset, hashtag halfway there.
Wait, hashtag who the F is Frank?